Well, today marks International Children's Day. It's observed annually around the world to honor children's rights as per the proclamation of the 1925 World Conference for the Well-being of Children in Geneva in Switzerland. In South Africa, the day also coincides with Child Protection Week, which this year is observed from the 28th of May to the 4th of June. And we put the spotlight today on the safety of children in our country, as well as highlighting issues affecting children, including abuse, abandonment, child labor, and exploitation. Well, as we are in the midst of Protection Week, which is marked annually to raise awareness for the rights of children, and even though a campaign like this and others exist, children in our society still face a myriad of challenges and social ills regardless of the background or the economic standing that they may come from. And to talk a bit more about this, I'm joined in studio by child protection activist Luke Lamprecht. Luke, welcome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
So you're running a campaign, correct me if I'm wrong, it's called Babies Matter. Tell us a bit about this campaign and why you feel it's necessary.
Right, so what happened is over the last about 13 years, I've been working in the medical field with primarily shaken, abused, battered and abandoned babies. And the question I asked after looking at all of these cases is, do babies actually matter to the adults in South African society?
All right, so what are the kind of statistics that we're looking at? Because I once used to volunteer at an orphanage, and I was astounded by the amount of little ones I saw who had been abandoned.
Look, the numbers are enormous. So there's very, very little good data because, for example, concealment of births, which are children who are discarded and we don't know if they have breathed yet, and they die. So a third of the children abandoned actually die. Another third of children who are abandoned, they end up shaken, abused and end up with disabilities, and the other third end up in the orphanages, as you spoke about. So the last at 3,500 a year that are abandoned. That's not counting orphan children and children who end up in care for other reasons.
So is this a myriad of ages?
Yeah.
That figure?
So that figure is specifically for babies. So,
okay.
So when a child is abandoned, that child is not sort of lost, or they can't point you to their house, they can't say I came from there, so they have no language in order to tell you this is my mommy, or I used to go to that school, or I used to live somewhere. So we're talking about all infants. So
I mean these figures are just are so depressing. As you said, 3,500 children abandoned annually in the country, so that's roughly 300 a month. What does it say about society that we've got these kind of numbers?
So the first thing for me is that the lead on from this campaign we call the I Am campaign. So instead of saying there's 3,500 children, we've started telling individual stories about I am Sitle.
Okay.
I was one day old, I was left in a rubbish bin, my mom didn't know how to care for me, I died. So when we have such big numbers, we almost lose the humanity behind it, and there's an easy way to other things. So in other words, it's those people. So we have a lot of kind of Afro-xenophobia. It's the foreign nationals in the city who come in, who don't get healthcare, who abandon their children. So it's kind of it's not us thing happening. Okay. So what it says to me as a society is, in general, that babies don't matter, first of all. And why they don't matter is, I think, right from conception, we do not conceive of babies in our minds before we conceive them in our bodies. So in order for a child to be loved, the child needs to be certainly wanted, not necessarily planned, because you can have an unplanned but wanted pregnancy. But children at least need to be planned. And what we've seen is, with all of these young abandoned late-term terminations, preterm terminations, because term in terms of the law is 26 weeks. So we get children abandoned who are dead, who have probably been sort of pre-26 week terminations, and then we've got post-26 week terminations where we don't know whether they've lived or not. So the pregnancy period has also become a crisis because people are not looking after mothers who are struggling. The fathers have been the first ones to abandon because they probably left after, even maybe before they knew the mother was pregnant. So you got the mother not planning, the father not planning, you got a pregnancy that is unwanted. The mother's probably not looking after herself as well as she can because she doesn't have the necessary medical resources. So when the baby is born, there's a crisis. And what we've seen is an increase in unsafe abandonments, which is what is concerning. So a safe abandonment abandonment is like a door of hope or leaving the child at the hospital. But unsafe abandonments are the ones in parks, dustbins, etc. And many of those babies just simply die.
So what kind of legislation is in place, or what needs to happen to make sure that these numbers go down, and that a young woman that's come in from Zimbabwe, or even somebody that's been living here and who has who doesn't have the right support structures, what kind of help does somebody like that get?
Okay. So I think the first thing we need to do is rethink our family planning and sex education, because it's quite clear that people are not planning their pregnancies, and the meaning for sex to everybody is different, and one of the results of sex is pregnancy. So I think family planning is problematic. I think during the term we need to find ways where our communities can actually keep an eye on the unborn child and say, that mother seems isolated, it seems like she doesn't have access to services, maybe we can provide her with options. So there's a crisis pregnancy line which can be contacted as part of the National Adoption Coalition, where those mothers can get assistance. And then once the child is born, well, if the parent wants to terminate, there are termination services, and we need to not stigmatize those people within the medical fraternity, but provide them with proper services. And then finally, when the children are born, we need to be providing the right support, that if that mother can't look after her child, that there's options like adoption, foster care, etc., or that we assist her and actually make a world where we can assist her to raise her child, because you must be very alone if you are unable to celebrate the birth of your child, and you are not going to mourn the death of your child. You must be in a very dark place.
One final question, because we have run out of time, but we've got such endemic problems entrenched in the society: poverty, abuse, and these problems seem to be getting harder to address, and it's on a global scale. Will the issue of child abandonment and child abuse and neglect, even though things are trying to be done, is this something that is going to be a long-term problem that it's going to take a very long time to overcome?
I do believe it's a long-term problem that will take a long time to overcome. But if we can start seeing a decrease in the numbers, and in the cases of the murders I'm dealing with, the decrease in the severity of the cases over time, I believe we're going in the right direction. But certainly my lifetime is not going to see the solution to this problem. I'm trying to hand a better world to those who follow me.
Luke, thanks very much. Luke Lamprecht from the National Adoption Coalition of South Africa. Thanks for your time.
Great pleasure.